Our next speaker is a young lady, a very strong young lady who had a chance to overcome issues in her life. Um, right now, not only across Fort Wayne but across the entire nation, there's a drug problem, and different stimuli take people or bring people to drugs. And what we're going to do is hear from a young lady, Miss Stepp-Thomas. Would you please come up and enlighten us on this drug thing so that we can know how not to get in this thing? Excuse me.
Oh my goodness. My name is Nannette Thomas, and I am a recovering addict. I have 15 years of sobriety under my belt. It was an ongoing battle. I've been through quite a few things in my life that took me down that road, and I'm glad to say I'm sober now. One of the things that I've been through, one of the things that I've been through in my life that took me down the road of drugs is when I turned 21, I thought that it would that I would have fun through it. So I took my first drink, I smoked my first joint, and all of that when I turned 21. And then I eventually graduated. When I moved to Fort Wayne, I was going through some hard times, and I tried, and I still smoke bud, but a friend of mine and I tried smoking Primos. Primos took me down the road of smoking crack cocaine. I've continued, but I've been sober, like I said, for 15 years. It was an oncoming battle. I've recovered a couple of times and relapsed a few times. But the one thing that made me really take my sobriety and want my life back was that I had changed. I had not become the mother that I had always used to be. My son could trust me when I told him something, and then it just totally changed me. He could no longer trust me. He would have to come find me. I was a working woman, but on my weekends I would disappear and they wouldn't see me again till maybe 2 or 3 days later. But the thing that really turned my life around was one day I came home and I had been on one of my binges and I had on some white clothes when I went to work. When I came home, my clothes was totally gray or close to being black, and I was so ashamed that I had my mom take my son to my neighbor's house so I could come home and change clothes. And then I remember I asked her for 75 cents so I could go turn myself in and get my life in order, which my mom didn't even realize I was on drugs. And I've accomplished so much since I turned my life around, because since then my mom has went through heart surgery, that I had to be strong for her and be there for her. And I know that without my sobriety, I couldn't have done these things. And I've helped my son be a good influence to my son. He has graduated college, and now he's a good citizen of the Indiana. He lives in Indianapolis, and I have grandchildren I can be proud of. And the things I do now, I can say that my higher power and my wanting my sobriety is what took me to the level that I am now. And I know there's nothing that I cannot accomplish if I really want to. And I won't, and I say no to drugs every day. And I hope that one day everybody else will get the chance that's on drugs to have their life turn out the way mine has. And maybe I will be the one that helped you. And I guess that's a little bit all I can say for now. Kind of nervous, and I'm sorry
No.
for
Um,
everything.
that's a difficult subject to talk about, and we certainly appreciate your being here because a lot of people, are sitting back right now just thinking about, um, smoking their first joint or hitting the pipe here for the first time. You know, what point has to get across to people about how dangerous drugs like crack and other drugs are? What point is not being communicated that needs to be communicated to the people who try it here for the first time?
That is nowhere battle, and it can take you nowhere but down. And you have two places you can end up. One is in prison, or one is maybe death. And it's your choice. You just gotta want a better life, and it's always someone out there that can help you. I would be willing to be anybody's sponsor if they needed help, because when I help somebody, it helps me to keep my sobriety and to be strong.
But but a lot of people have told me that they were recreational smokers, with crack. Can you be a recreational smoker, or are you addicted and you're just in denial?
No, you cannot be a recreational smoker, because I was under the same impression. When I first turned myself into rehab, I thought that since I didn't smoke crack 24 hours a day, 24/7, and that I didn't get real thin and look rugged and all of that, that I wasn't an addict. But it took me going to rehab to find out that just like there's a weekend alcoholic, there's a weekend addict. That's when you whatever you do, like say if it's crack cocaine, when you do it, it's not how many times a day you do it or how often you do it. It's when you do it, you lose control. You are not gonna quit smoking until your money's gone or you don't have no other way to get high.
But a lot of people that I've spoken with that I knew were addicts, they were outstanding salesmen, outstanding liars, so to speak. I mean, they'll convince you that you're invisible. They can convince you of anything. Why can't a person draw on that type of um, of effort of trying to sell somebody or convince somebody of something under a natural state? I mean, does crack go that far into you psychologically to bring up things that you can't ordinarily bring up?
They say it does, but to me, like with crack or alcoholism or whatever, if someone says something or sells themselves in a way when they're high, they can do the same thing in a sober. They mean to do the same thing in a sober way. They just don't have the gumption to do that. Cause like for me, for instance, when me and James first got married and we was moving out on our own, I wanted this apartment real bad. I wanted it real, real bad, so I went down to the complex and talked to my landlord. But when I first talked to him, I told him I was renting from someone, but I lived in the same house with them. And he said he would have to come out and do an inspection. And at the time I was living with someone, but it was my mother. And I'm like, well, how am I gonna have him come to my mother's house? So I called him back. And my son was so proud of me that day because he went with me. And I told him though when I got home, I said, Marcus, I'm gonna have to call and let this man know the truth, that I live with mama, that I do pay her rent, but I'm living with my mom. And which I did, and I sold myself to this man. I told him, I'm an honest person and all I need is a chance, you know. And I'm gonna be honest because that means a lot to me, because coming with my sobriety comes honesty. And I had lost that when I started becoming an addict. I had lost all that. Like I said, I wasn't as honest with my son. I would disappoint him. And my mom and them, I would disappoint them. But when I got my sobriety back, that's what telling the truth, that's why it's so important to me to be a truthful, honest person, because when I was a drug addict, all that honesty was gone. I let my child down.
Okay. Well, so what you're saying in essence is, through your own dedication, you can get off this stuff.
Yeah, but you can't do it no matter how much you love somebody. Like I love my son and my mom and them with all my heart. But I couldn't do it because I love them. I had to do it because I love myself. And I had to look in the mirror. I remember the woman that saved my life, she's dead now because she did happen to relapse. She is a heroin addict. But she is my counselor and she helped me save my life, her and my higher power, which is God. I'm God's child. And he helped me save my life. And She relapsed and lost her life, and that's why I would love to be able to give back something that she gave to me. Because with her help and my own help of wanting a better life and to be the kind of person I had always been, I had to go and let them know I needed help. I had lost control of my life, and I wanted my life back because I remember when I first went, we went through detox. And at the detox, they let you out in 3 days. And they told me they didn't have no openings in this program or anything. But I just begged them and I told them I can't leave here because if you let me leave now, it'll be like I haven't did nothing. I'll be right back in the same situation I was. And this lady, they let me stay for the program and get my life back. And I let that lady took me home to get my clothes because I didn't even want to go home by myself and everything. And they gave me my life back.
Okay. Listen, thank you very much for sharing that with us, because hopefully we can persuade somebody to not take that first hit off that pipe.
Yeah.
Because I think that once you get that pipe in your mouth, it's hard to get it out.
And there's one more thing I'd like to say, too. There's also the impression that people think that that most of the drug addiction is in the south, in the black neighborhoods and stuff. There's just as much addictions in the north side or anywhere else that it is in the black neighborhoods. You just don't hear about it like you do in the black neighborhoods. And I would like everyone to know that that's not just it's not a black problem. It's a everybody problem.
Yeah, crack does that.
It's not prejudice. It'll touch anybody that wants to take that chance and think they can do it without any consequences, but it's consequences in everything.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
A lot of us think that all of society is dysfunctional, only some just handle it better than others. Our next speaker